good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for today's Authors of Google Talk. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our speaker today. I think you guys already know him now, Mr. Ron Kaufman. Ron is the world's leading educator and motivator for uplifting customer service and uplifting service cultures. He is author of the book Uplifting Service and 14 other books on service, business, and inspiration. Ron is rated one of the world's top 25 hot speakers by Speaker Magazine for his high energy and high content presentations. He has been featured in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and on TV. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ron Kaufman.
Woo! Yeah, thank you very much, Sandra. Thank you. Okay, great to be here at Google, and thank you so much for this hour of your time. I want to jump right in. The book that you got a copy of is called Uplifting Service, and while I'm based in Singapore, the reason my wife and I are in New York is because on this Sunday, you'll see it published in the New York Times bestseller list. The book expo is here in New York, so we hit. That's a 3-year project that's finally come to fruition. This is all I do. I travel around the world with my wife doing uplifting service, coaching, consulting, training, working with some of the largest companies in the world. That is a picture of my passport. Yeah, holy moly, right? It's actually at the point now where immigration officers kind of look at it and look back up and look down. And the reason is that I'm one of these people who from a very early age was kind of driven out there in the world to do things with other people. This is a picture of the Brown University Ultimate Frisbee team. And I show you this picture because it demonstrates that at one point I did have hair. But it also points to 2 other very interesting people who were on the team. For example, I became a domain expert in service leadership and in building service cultures. But this fellow right here in the front row, does anybody recognize him? Okay, his name is James Garvin. And he's chief scientist for NASA exploration. So when the Mars things went on, this is Jim, right? More interesting, who is this guy? That gentleman on the Brown University Ultimate Frisbee team is Peter Norvig, who was the Google Director of Search Quality and now is your Director of Search. So join me in giving Ultimate Frisbee a big clap for the impact that we've had in the world. This person is the one who really has a big impact on my life. It's my wife. Her name is Jen. She and I scuba together. We travel together. We get the pleasure of working in different places like the World Bank together. And she's sitting right here in the back of the room. Would you join me giving her a big clap? Because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. All right. This is actually the mission that I'm on. And people say Ron is a man on a mission. It's true. I am committed to uplifting the quality and the spirit and the practice of service all over the world. And I think one of the problems that we have today is it's not being taught. I mean, if you think about the education you got, if you're in this room, you're a well-educated person. And you learned whatever you learned, but I'll bet none of you actually ever took a class on the fundamental principles of service, or how to develop a strong service culture, or how to differentiate an organization based on quality of service. And so that's what it is that we're really bringing around the world. Now, I was fortunate because I studied with this gentleman for 7 years after college. His name is Fernando Flores, and he's an expert in something called ontological design. 2 of his proteges, Chauncey Bell and Chris Davis, I attribute to them me becoming a different kind of observer in the world. So what is ontological design? Fundamentally, what are the fundamental linguistic distinctions and the standard practices that enable competent action in some domain? Now, I can't talk like that with most people in business, but here at Google, I think I can. Right? So when I look at something like how does service work, or how do you optimize search, or how do you, whatever it is, if you know what the fundamental distinctions are and the standard practices, and you know the strategies of those that do it well, then potentially it could become replicated. And so that underpinning has caused me to look at the real leaders in service. Singapore Airlines, Ritz-Carlton Hotels, Zappos, Apple Computer. You know, what are they doing? But not anecdotally. Like, well, they have a Genius Bar in a beautiful building that was designed by Steve Jobs. Not like that. But fundamentally, engineering-wise, how are they building out that kind of a culture? And that's what I've written about in the book, and I'm going to give you a brief presentation of it today. Now, I've been living in Singapore for more than 2 decades. So I moved there because this whole country was wrestling with the issue of how to develop a service culture, and they had to for economic necessity. Back in 1980s, 1990s, all the manufacturing left and went to China. All of the back office processing went to the low-cost locations like India and the Philippines, and now even moving to Bangladesh. So Singapore had to reinvent itself to still create value in the world, and they succeeded. Now, they already had one particular iconic example. Has anybody here ever flown on this airline? Okay, did you have a good experience? I mean, like to the point where people are willing to pay more, a higher premium, to fly on exactly the same route at just about the same time. The aircraft itself will fly at a higher yield. That means there's more people on board than in the other carriers, which is why Singapore Airlines today has $6 billion in cash reserves in an industry where airlines go out of business on a regular basis, right? It's not because they have better aircraft. That Airbus can be purchased by Emirates and Cathay Pacific and British Airways. And it's not because they use better airports or better travel agents or even a better website. It's because they've differentiated based on the quality of their service, right? And they've even created an icon for it. They call it the Singapore Girl, right? And I've been working with them for 20 years. So I know what it is that they've done. And I've seen sort of underneath the covers, what's the architecture that they're using to engineer that in a sustainable way over time. This is a shot of Changi International Airport, which is Singapore's airport. It's Singapore Airlines' home base. This is an interesting cultural situation where you need service to be delivered from top to bottom, end to end, and across many different organizations, because 40 million people go through the airport. Now, you go through airports. Let's say you're in an airport somewhere and you're lost. You have a question, you need something, okay? Who will you ask for help? Ready? Turn to the person next to you, answer that question. You're in an airport, you're lost. Where's the gate? Where's the post office? Who will you ask? Talk to the person next to you. Go. All right, yell it out for me. Who will you ask? Who will you ask?
First person I see in any kind of uniform.
The first person you see in any kind of uniform. You don't care if it's a police and you're asking for the post office, and you don't care if you're at the post office and you're asking where's the gate. So they needed to create a culture where every single one of the 28,000 people that work there would take responsibility for the quality of the customer experience. And they've done that very successfully. They've got a phrase that solves many partners, many missions, but there's only one Changi. Now, I've been working with them for a really long time, and I know how they do it. They've solved this problem, which many large organizations have, of what I call a confused culture. We recruit this kind of person, but we give bonuses for this kind of a thing. And then the marketing promises like that, but the actual customer service experience is like this. That's confusing for people who work in a large organization. All Singapore Airlines has done, all the Ritz-Carlton has done, all Zappos has done, is they've lined it up. They've taken away the confusion, and they've done the same things that other organizations are doing, but in sync with one another to create a certain impact. I'm going to show you the architecture of how that works. So let's start by asking you to talk to the person next to you. Should be a very simple question. Google is actually it's a service business. You're providing things for people, right? You're giving them answers, you're giving them ad space, you're giving them what they need. So what is the definition of service? Please, talk to your partner. Go. Okay, come on back. Let me ask. Did you and your partner turn to each other and immediately share exactly the same words? No. So if I passed out cards here and everybody wrote down their definition, let's say there's 60 people in the room, you handed in the cards, how many definitions would I have? 65, right? And that's a problem in the world today, and it shows how fundamental the problem is. Because even something as basic as what is service, we're not being taught. So people are going, well, it's the customer wants and what he needs, and it's exceeding and delighting, and that gets really fuzzy. Doesn't need to be that way. So here's a definition that I use and I introduce in the book right at the beginning. Service is taking action. Would you agree? Right. Service doesn't sit in a box. All right? Somebody's got to do something to take action. What's the purpose of taking the action? To meet some need, to give somebody what they want, to satisfy, to delight, right? To create some value, right? The purpose of the action has got to be to create some value for someone else, unless it's self-service. Now let's just pause for a second. Does this definition adequately describe what you do? So you may be in tech, just keeping other people's computers running. You may actually be working with advertisers. You may be working with other websites. You may be working with partners. You may be working with... Talk to your partner for a second. Does this simple definition of service, taking action to create value for someone else, does it apply to your job? Talk to your partner. Go. Right, absolutely. Right. However, A lot of people come to work and they say, no, 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 my job is just doing what's on this checklist. Or leave me alone, I'm just doing my job. Rather than understanding that the purpose of doing the job is to create some value for somebody else. Now, what is service excellence? And what is a service culture? And how are these two things related to each other? Because they're not the same. Right? Service excellence is a certain level of performance and value created. A service culture is something else. Talk to your partner again. What are these two things and how are they related to one another? Go. Good. Good, good, good. Come on back. Come on back. Yeah. I'm going to answer these in the next few minutes. Really dissolve the confusion that people have. So many people in the world and in business today, they hear the word service and they say, oh, that's the soft stuff. And then they hear the word culture and they go, oh, that's really airy-fairy. And I'm saying, no, 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 not to Singapore Airlines, it's not to Ritz-Carlton, it's not to Apple Computer, it's not to Google, it's not. Right? You've got to really understand what this is and how to build it. So that's the big question. How do you actually build a culture of uplifting service and make it stronger and stronger and sustainable over time? And that's what my career has really been about, is identifying what is the plan, what is the architecture, how do you engineer this thing so it's not just up to a charismatic leader? Yeah? I'm going to go back and use a very old architecture that's been influencing human behavior for a long time. And the components are clear. There's got to be a leadership element. People who are driving an organization in a certain direction with their personal example and things that they do inside the organization. There's an educational component, which is not the same as training. We'll come to that in a second. And then in the middle is this interesting area called building blocks that I'll point to at the end of this presentation. Okay? Let's start at the base. What is the difference between education and training? They're not the same. Take a moment, talk to your partner. What's the difference between education and training? Go. Very good. Very good. Training is what? Yeah, exactly. You can train someone what to do, and you want them to be well trained in a certain situation where they need to do the right thing, right? But education's different. Education is teaching people how to think so they can figure out what to do, right? If you have children, do you just want them to be really well trained? Right? Or you want them to be educated, right? So customer service training has a fundamental flaw. It's good in certain situations where you need someone to absolutely follow the checklist. But if all we're providing in the world today is a lot of training about what to do, what happens when the customer shows up with a new situation you haven't seen before? It gets escalated up the chain, becomes a bottleneck, right? That's that point I was saying about we need fundamental education for service in the world today. Now, training is fine sometimes. Yeah, my wife and I have a friend who's a former U.S. Marine, and he's been in combat. And he said, you know, when the bullets are flying, you stop thinking. But your body knows what to do because it's been, that's why they go to boot camp. Okay, when this guy takes a machine up in the air, and he's got hundreds of passengers in the back, I don't want him to do creative thinking. Right? Which is why, I mean, we put them in a simulator, and we throw tough situations so they will become, well, that's why no one died. Because when the geese hit the engines, the pilot and the co-pilot both immediately went to the checklist and did what they were trained and told to do. Their bodies knew how to do it. If this guy goes in on you, don't ask him to think out of the box. Right? But in business, we need people who can come up with new ideas. We need people who can solve problems we've never seen before and innovate to come up with new ways to create value. We want people who can make a decision on the spot and have it be a good decision without having to bring it to somebody else. And we find that the way that happens is when you get a chance to work on this and talk about it with other people. And personally, I believe it should be uplifting if the topic is service. Because there is a skill set component, but there's also a mindset or an attitudinal component. You agree? Your customers, your service providers, you get what I'm saying. So let's do this right now. Would you turn to your partner and just say, thank you for being my partner. Go. Good. Now, would you do this? Please rub your hands together. Rub your hands together. Here we go. Clap twice. Hands up. Turn to your partner. Give him a high five. Say, thanks for being my partner. Could you feel a difference? Did it feel better or worse? It felt better, right? And there was still a thank you, but it was done with a different... Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate for you now a piece of fundamental service education. 6 levels of service. We're going to start low. The word is basic. Definition of the word, please. Talk to your partner. 10 seconds. Basic means what? Go. Basic is the fundamental, the... Yeah, basic means basic. Thank you. That's basic. Right? It's the minimum, but I call it the bare minimum. So a good example, and we experienced it the other day, is a taxi that smells bad with a driver who's in a bad mood, who's a bad driver, but he gets you where you want to go. Ever happened to you? Okay, that level we're going to call basic. Here's how to say it. Basic. Say it with me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. How do you feel? Okay, so let's not stay there. Let's take a step up. 1 step above basic is expected. It's normal, okay? Average. So if you tell the driver where you want to go, do you expect that he knows how to get there? Does it always happen? You ever get a driver who says, where do you want to go? You tell him and he says, where's that? Yeah, the moment he says, where's that, where does your mood go? Up or down? Drops, because he may go the long way or the wrong way, or you've got to give him directions. Now, eventually, he gets you where you want to go. So he does meet the basic, but it's not what you... Good. Now, what I want you to do is what this fellow's already doing. Cross your arms, please. Cross your arms. Take the sound of your voice moving up in your nose. It goes like this. Expected. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Expected. Good. Sounds like finance departments. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. What is higher than expected? Oh, and by the way, what is the traditional definition of customer satisfaction? Meeting customer expectations. Look how low that is on the scale. So what is 1 step higher is when you serve someone the way they like it, the way they hope for it, the way they prefer it. The word I use is called desire, right? So that's getting the clean taxi with the friendly taxi driver with the guy, right? And when you get it, you go, that's what I was hoping for. That's what I desire. Okay, now, here's how you say this one. Shoulders, please. Like this. Your shoulders broken? Come on, come on. There we go. There we go. Now you add the sound. It goes like this. Desire. You give it a shot. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Go. Come on, Googlers. One more time. It's not lunchtime. 1, 2, 3. Go. Desire. Good. Tell your partner how well he did that. Go ahead. Now let's just see if this is relevant. Let's do these 3 levels together. Down low is basic. 1 level up, cross your arms. Expected. Shoulders. What would be an example at Google? What would be an example of something that you do that someone else would say, oh, yeah, it was the bare minimum. It was late, it was incomplete, it was slow, it didn't have all the data that I could have used. What would be expected? Industry average, normal. Oh, and then what would be the way they like it? That would cause them to say, that's what I was hoping for, that's what I desire. Okay? Talk to your partner for a moment. Go. What's an example of that at Google? Good. Good. Okay? Notice, by the way, that what you're describing right now is someone else's experience with what we do at Google, not what we do at Google. Right? It's not a checklist, it's not a procedure, it's not a KPI, it's someone else's experience of that. Now that becomes very clear when we take the next step. Above desired is the unexpected. It's the one that you didn't know was coming, and I call it surprising. Okay, the way you say it is like getting a gift with your hands like this. Surprising. Try it. 1, 2, 3, here we go. And surprising. Okay, very good. Has anybody ever bought you a gift? Wrapped it up. Brought it to the party. Birthday, holiday, You opened it, and when you saw what it was, you were genuinely surprised. Woo! Ever happen? Ever happen? Good. Not exactly that sound, but okay. But you got the surprise. Now, has anybody ever given you a gift? They bought it, they wrapped it up, they brought it to the party. But when you opened it up and you saw what it was, you went, huh? And then, to be polite, you pretended to be surprised. Okay, now what was the difference between those two things? In both cases, whoever bought it for you intended to surprise you. In one case, oh, it worked. In the other case, it didn't. What was the fundamental difference? Talk to your partner. Go. The difference, the fundamental difference, was whether or not the person who bought that for you understood what you, not necessarily what you wanted or what you expected, because if you already wanted it, you already expected it, it wasn't a surprise. If they understood, though, what you value, and they put some creative thought into, if she values this and I do that, aha, nice surprise. On the other hand, when the experience is, maybe they got you something they value. Maybe they got you something that you used to value, but they haven't stayed current. I guess it would be like if you had a data understanding of somebody's needs and interests, and they weren't really current, and you're still serving up to them some results that was what they were interested in before. They're not going, oh, what a surprise. They're going, boy, are you out of date? Now, the level of service above surprising is really where you astonish. I mean, it's extraordinary. The word I use for this is unbelievable. And we're not going to demonstrate it yet because I want to go below basic. What is below basic? It's terrible. It's awful. It's horrible. It's so bad, I call it criminal, right? Now, I don't mean break the law, but I mean you broke a promise. Like there's a service brand that's there. There's a marketing promise there. There's an expectation there, and you violate it. So the way you say this one at the bottom is you put your hands together like handcuffs, please. Here we go. So you did that quickly. Priors. Hands together, and you just go like this. Criminal. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and criminal. One step up. Basic. Cross your arms. Expect. Shoulders. Desire. Hands. Surprising. And fist. Here we go. I got a back row here. They're going, unbelievable. That's a basic unbelievable. Come on, Google, give me one unbelievable. 1, 2, 3, and unbelievable. Good. How is the service at Google? Unbelievable. I admire your enthusiasm. What would our customers say? What would the people you serve say? If you're an internal service provider, you work with colleagues in California in another part of the world, in another group. If you're an external service provider, if you're working with Google partners, what would they say? What would their experience be of the quality of service, the value that you create for them? Ready? Turn to your partner. 6 levels of service. Go. Aha. Aha. Now hold on. Now it gets more tricky. We say we are committed to service excellence. A lot of organizations say that, so let me ask you the question. Where is excellence on these 6 levels of service? It's not one of the 6 words, but you get the question I'm asking you, right? Where is excellence on these 6 levels? Talk to your partner. Okay, tell me, yell it out, please. Excellence is? Expected. Excellence is? Desired. Excellence is? Surprising. Oh my God, how come all over the place? The reason you can't just put your finger on it is these 6 levels are not stairs like they look. This thing's an escalator. And it's constantly going down. And what I mean by that is that you come out with something new, it's only new for a short period, and then it's nice. And then nice becomes normal, and normal becomes no big deal. How many of you remember this? Right? You laugh. But when it first came out, it was unbelievable. Today, basic. So back to my question. If the stairs keep slipping down, what does it mean to be excellent on the 6 levels of service? Where is excellence? Talk to your partner. Right, right. Excellence has become a moving target. And the only way then that you could be excellent at Google or anywhere else in your life is if you keep stepping up. Okay, so now let's be definitional. Remember, ontological linguistic distinctions. What is service excellence? I challenge you in business in your life to ask a lot of leaders that and see what kind of a fluffy answer they come up with. This is a grounded answer. Service excellence is taking the next step up to create more value for someone else. And a service excellence culture is where every single person comes to work every day and says, that's what I'm up to. I'm not here doing my job. I'm not here following a procedure. I'm here taking some action that creates some value. And if I stand still, by default, I'm going to be stepping down, especially in the competitive world that you folks work in. So I want you to apply this to your job right now. What would be an example of doing what you do, but doing it a little bit differently, and someone else would say, thanks, I appreciate that. That's better. It might be something more proactive. It might be a better follow-up. It could be greater flexibility. It might be additional options. I don't know, but it's got to be something that the other person will appreciate and value. Okay? Talk to your partner. Apply this to your job right now. Good. All right, Googlers, come on back. So, fundamental principle. By the way, how old do you think somebody needs to be to understand that? Catch it in your early teens, which is where it should be taught. Now, let's couple that principle with this one. Service is delivered in a sequence. So, for example, I go to a web page, then I type in what I'm looking for, then I start to see results, then I click through, then I see if I can navigate easily to get what I'm looking for, then I'm going to go back again, then etc. Right? At some point, I'm gone. Same thing is true going to a restaurant. Same thing is true with most service in life. Every one of those points is evaluated by the person being served on those 6 levels of service. How many of those points need to be below expected to mess up a service experience? 1. How many of them need to be surprising, assuming all the rest are expected, to make it a good experience? Also 1. Right? So that's the power. If you get everybody coming to work going, my job is to keep stepping up, you don't need everybody to be surprising about everything all day. You need everybody looking for an opportunity to surprise. And an example of that is at Changi Airport, where they have the ambition to be known as one of the friendliest airports in the world. Now, they have a critical transaction. It's called arrivals. It starts when the aircraft door opens, and it ends when the taxi door closes. And in between those 2 doors is an experience that you have going through arrivals and immigration and getting your bags and customs and taxi line. One of those points was getting a low score on the friendly scale, and it was causing a problem. Which point do you think that might be? Immigration. It's not their job to be friendly, right? But Changi Airport wants to be and is the most awarded airport on the planet, so they analyzed it. And they dug in and they said, look, we got to get these guys to be more smiley and more friendly and say nice things to 42 million passengers a year. Please. In fact, they tried it and it was a problem because then the line slowed down. So they innovated and they took another step up and they actually did something very simple. On every single one of the immigration counters, they put one of these. It's a box of candies, of breath mints. And they changed the script for the immigration officers. All they have to say now when you walk up is they say, passport. You hand it over and they say one word, sweet. 42 million people. Oh, sweet. Friendly score shot up. Now, it's just a tiny example. Just like improving something in a search result or improving something on a web page is a tiny example, but it's the accumulation of those that produces a powerful experience. For example, at Changi Airport, if you're carrying something that you're not allowed to bring on board the aircraft, and it happens, now you can mail it back to yourself on the spot. Solves a problem. Turns a complaint into a differentiator. You can have a butterfly experience at Changi Airport in between your flights. There's like a little botanic garden, and you just stand still, and butterflies will come and land on you. What's that got to do with an airport? Well, if you want to be the #1 airport in the world, you want to be stress-free, surprising, personal. What if you have kids? Kids are not going to sit still for a butterfly. What you want to do is tire them out before the next flight. So take them to the indoor slide. It's 4 stories tall. That's the largest one in the country. And for free, your kids can go up and down and up and down and up and down. So on the next flight, they will sleep, creating value. Monday morning, have a free coffee. Okay? What's driving them is this. It's your experience that turns them on. That's what they call their inspiration. And I know that at Google, you're doing it all the time. Now, you've also got sort of a B2C and a B2B model. So this is one of our web pages up on the front. You'll see it when you go to the home page at Up Your Service, and that's from the Butterfly Garden. Well, this is from Singapore Airlines. That's B2C as well for the most part, except for cargo. This is Marina Bay Sands, one of the new, very large integrated resorts that recently opened in Singapore. It's another B2C, right? Parkway Medical, another one of the groups we're working with. So in many different industries, they get it about improving service, but it's not only B2C. This is a company called Vopak. They are the largest oil and chemical storage company in the world. And I want you to see what we've been doing with them, what they've been doing with the same simple models. Now look at this. They've taken what they do in the terminals and they've mapped it out. This is what happens when a guest, one of their customers, comes to visit the terminal. Look how many points they identified. And then they drilled down under every one of those points and said, what would be criminal, basic, expected, desired, surprising, or unbelievable for the people visiting our terminal at every one of those points? Oh, and then they did it again for visiting a customer at their office, which some of you Googlers do. And then they did it again for getting a new contract. And then they did it again for actually executing on the business that they're all about. And then they did it again, even for handling customer feedback. And can you imagine the number of innovative improvements they were able to identify? And that's just 2 of the simple models that I've shown you here. Every single perception point is evaluated on the 6 levels of service, and it's always slipping down. So that first model, second model, third, fourth, and fifth constitute a fundamental set of service education that you can learn more about at the website. Now, how many times did you learn math? How many times did you learn history and science and English? Not once. And yet companies today think they can send somebody to a service class and they're done. It doesn't work that way. Here's a whole other set of education about building a deeper service partnership. Here's a whole other set of education on increasing customer loyalty. And this is the area where, if you want to build a culture, you've got to dig down deep underneath and see what are the fundamental principles of service. That's what it is that I think needs to be educated in the world. In the book that you got today, the 4th section is called Learn. And it has all those principles explained in it with examples and action steps to apply. That's the educational base. Now let's jump to the top and look at leadership. Who said that? Most of you, I imagine, would own at least one of his products. Steve Jobs, right? He's passionate about what's the customer's experience with that product going to be. Who said this? I'll give you a hint. He likes to sell things. In fact, he's created the largest retail organization on the planet. 23 million employees, right? Walmart, Sam Walton. Who said this? Give you a hint. In your industry, he turned around an organization that had become arrogant and complacent and confident that they knew better. It was Lou Gertzner, the man who went from American Express to IBM and turned it around. Who said this? That's exactly correct. You know because you have kids. Right? Don't. You are a kid. Who said this? It's Albert Einstein. Right, let's get a little closer to home. Who said this? Your guy. Right? And who said this? Your other guy. Right? So the awareness of the need to satisfy users, right? I mean, that's always been there from the very beginning. It's in the DNA of the organization. You understand taking action to create value for someone else. You're fundamentally a service organization, as is every single position inside this organization. Right? Now, we could do a lot more on leadership, and there's a section in the book on that called Lead. But I want to spend just a moment peeking at this area in the middle. These 12 building blocks. These are common practice, especially in an organization the size of Google. But it doesn't mean that the way they're being done is necessarily best practice for creating a cultural environment that constantly reinforces and reminds people about the importance of taking action to create more value for somebody else. This is where companies get confused, because these 12 different building blocks are often handled by different parts of the organization who don't see the need to work closely together. All Singapore Airlines is doing is this. This is what all of the companies that are differentiating based on customer experience have figured out how to do. And these are the 12 building blocks. Now, there's a very large section in the book called Build, in which each one of these blocks has a chapter. And in each chapter are global best practices and actionable steps that leaders and service providers can take to actually make these things stronger. And today we don't have time to go through all of them, but on the website there are videos about each of them, and they're free. They're all on YouTube as well. So I want to just zoom in on two of these right now. One of them is the critical importance of having what I call an engaging service vision. Something that turns people on and makes them want to do that. To say it in a way that people go, yeah, that's what we're about. The key word here is not vision. The key word here isn't even service. The key word is engaging, because otherwise it's just words on the wall. So here's an example. Texas, anybody here from Texas? Okay, Texas is a country, you know that, right? I mean, right? We're proud Texans, right? For good reason. And they had a litter problem. And the litter problem was that males between the age of 19 and 35 were driving their pickup truck with a shotgun in the back and throwing the beer cans out on the highway. And the litter was accumulating, and the State Department of Transportation had to spend more and more and more money each year clearing it up. So they decided to have a campaign. Give a hoot, don't pollute. Think it worked? You know why? Because in Texas, owls are considered varmints. Right? Didn't work at all. So they really went into the psychology of what will it take to engage these proud, young men who are Texans, and don't you tell them otherwise. And so they just changed the name of the program. Do you know what it is? Don't mess with Texas. And today, you could be driving along in your pickup and throw a beer can out the window, but you better watch out who's behind you. Because they may be saying, don't you mess with my state. And only by making that change in the vision of what the program was about, the litter went down and the expense went down. And Texas highways today are looking better because somebody figured out a better vision. When I started working with this company, joint venture between Nokia and Siemens in the telco hardware and software space, they had just approved a new marketing campaign that was called, the two words, knowing how. Think about that. Knowing how. Who is that appealing to? The engineers and the people who work there were proudly saying, we know. Right? But how appealing is that to the companies that you serve? People don't really care what you know, and there's a lot of smart people in this company. They don't care so much what you know as what you do with what you know for them. So we simply changed it to know how, act now. Okay, but now we're coming to the final exam of this presentation. What's the purpose of the action? Is it just to show that you know? Or is it to actually create an impact for the other person? Right. So we added two more words. It became know how, act now, create wow, which is that definition of the word unbelievable. And this is now driving 60,000 people in the organization to know who is my customer, what is their pain point, what have we done for them in the past, what are they currently complaining about, what is our competition offering, who else in my organization is in communication with them, what can I do, what action can I take that they will appreciate. Clear? What is the service vision in your department at Google? What are you up to? What is it that's driving you and your team? It can be internal as well. There's a part of the U.S. federal government that manages budgets. And that's about as it gets. But they understood this and they said, okay, we're going to come up with a new vision. It's called creating value beyond the numbers. Now think about what that means for a finance department to say, our mission is not to get the report right, not to just make the payments, not to just be a normal expected finance department. We've got to now reach out to our colleagues and help create more value for them. How to use the data, how to interpret these charts, how to use this to help you make better decisions. Okay, I pause for a second. What is the engaging service vision for the group that you work with? If you've got one, share it. If you don't have one, now's the chance to kind of go, we should really figure that out. Okay, talk to your partner. Go. Okay, right. Don't worry. Don't worry. Most organizations in the world haven't taken this step yet, right? They think it's the customer service department's job, or they think it's up to the boss or the service manager, right? Not realizing, hey, it's all of us in service to all of us. Now, I've got one more story for you. And it's from that last building block right there called service role modeling. But first, a question. Of all the 12 building blocks, why would service role modeling go last? Okay, let me ask you a question. That's good. Let's say you're messing up in the other areas, right? But your personal role model is really strong. And the staff that you work with can see that you're committed to responding and you'll listen to somebody who's got a complaint, you're going the extra mile. Do you think other people will be a bit inspired to help you out? Even if the other things aren't working yet, right? On the other hand, if Google nails it and gets all of the other 11 really just right, but the role model of the people in the organization doesn't demonstrate that they believe it, do you think the new people, like this woman here, it's her second day on the job, or the intern that's over here who's just joining Google for the summer, do you really think that they're going to go, oh yeah, we believe it? Because you have the programs in place? This is the power and the impact of what you do today. I mean, it's your voice on the phone. It's the way you end an email and whether you put that little PS that says, by the way, just want to let you know how much I appreciate that effort. Or, hey, here's my cell phone. Feel free to give me a call if you need my help. It's that personal role model that can make a big impact, and every one of us can do it. So one last story, just because it reminds me so much differently from New York, which is where we are right now. So an American consultant went to Sweden to work in a large factory on an implementation project. But he was from California, so he was accustomed to warm weather. And he gets to Sweden, and he's in his hotel, and he looks outside, and it looks like this. And his Swedish host comes and picks him up in the car. Nice Volvo, right? The Volvo's nice and warm. Picks him up at the hotel. They drive to the factory. They are there early. The factory's not opening for another half an hour. They happen to get there really early. No traffic that day. The guy drives his Volvo to the farthest edge of the parking lot away from the factory building. Steps out of the car, buttons up his big, heavy Swedish coat. The American from California steps out and starts shivering, and they walk all the way across this frozen parking lot to get into the factory. They get there, and the guy from California is practically frozen stiff and turns and looks at his host and says, what did you do that for? And the Swedish guy looks at him and feels fine and says, do what? He says, we came early. Why did you park all the way over there? And the Swede said, isn't it obvious? And the Californian said, well, what do you mean obvious? I'm freezing. And he goes, oh, well, see, as my colleagues come, we came early, so we had plenty of time. But as my colleagues come closer and closer to the opening of the factory when we need everybody to be on time, they're going to have less and less time. So doesn't it make sense for me to park on the... Right. Now that's taking action to create value for someone else. And doesn't it sound exactly like New York City? Making the shift from a confused culture where there's lots of different messages going on to aligning yourself, in your case, on user experience, or creating value for your advertisers, or helping your colleague to be more successful, or having this intern's career step forward, or making this new person at Google feel welcome, right? That's taking action to create value for somebody else, and it is possible to engineer the development of a culture that does that. I started at the beginning, a little more cerebral than when I work with most of my clients. What are the fundamental linguistic distinctions? Well, you better have those principles worked out. What are the standard practices? You better have a way that people can actually implement. What are the strategies of the companies that do it well? That's what you'll find in the book Uplifting Service, and you all got a copy of it today. There's a fundamental methodology, a way that we work top down with organizations and bottom up to make the results actually stick. A way of implementing this over time. That's section 5 in the book called Drive. All of this you'll find at the website. If you just add the word slides at the end of the URL so that it becomes upyourservice.com/slides, a summary set of slides of this entire presentation are available for download for free. At YouTube, I'm armed and dangerous, walking around New York City with my little flip cam and an external microphone, and I'm shooting all the time and using your wonderful YouTube service. Thank you very much, Google. And of course, the book is called Uplifting Service, and you can find out more about that at upliftingservice.com. So before I close, I'd like to demonstrate one more thing to you that you'll get a personal experience. Once again, please, say thank you to your partner. Okay, good. Now, what level, okay, good. What level did you just say thank you on the 6 levels of service? Criminal, basic, expected, desired, surprising, unbelievable. Talk to your partner. What level? All right, come on back. You got it calibrated now, right? You got it calibrated. In your mind, I want you to get ready. I'm going to ask you to step up 1 level higher, or if you're really enthusiastic, step up 2, and get ready to thank your partner that way, but at a higher level. Are you ready? Ready? And go. Go. Say thank you. 3 questions to wrap up. Question number 1, could you feel a difference? Yes or no? Yes. Good. Question number 2, did it feel better or worse? Better. Now here's the critical question. Did it feel better when they thanked you at a higher level? Or did you already start feeling better when you were getting ready to thank them? Which one was it? Where did the good feeling come? Was it already when you were getting ready, or did it happen only when they thanked you? Right, when you were getting ready. So this is the amazing, not only pay it forward, but pay it straight back to yourself, of committing yourself to do something more for someone else. The moment you make the decision to do something to help somebody else more, the first person who gets the benefit of that is you. The energy comes up in you, and what goes around comes around, what goes around comes around. So rub your hands together, please. Clap twice. Hands up. Turn to your partner, and no, whoa. Hold on a second. Why'd you give him a high five? Why'd you do that? Because we've already done it a couple times before, so it's become what? Expected. But we're committed to stepping up. So rub your hands together. Clap 3 times. Hands up. Turn to your partner. Give him a high five. Give him a high five. And then hands up. Give him a hug. Okay, I know we're not in California. Thank you very much, Googlers, for the privilege and the pleasure of being with you today here in New York. Thank you.